So, what is the religion of safetyism? Now, safety is a good thing. It's when human beings apply reason, they assess risks, and they determine how big a risk might be and if whether taking that risk is worth accomplishing their goal. Usually, things like safety and risk taking are very personal matters because for different ones of us, we value different things, and different ones of us are willing to take different levels of risk for ourselves and for our family and to accomplish whatever is we want. You may decide to risk your well-being for something that I would not, and vice versa. The challenge, of course, is when we have a big government that decides for everybody what risks are acceptable to take and what risks are not acceptable to take. And this has become an increasing problem. Certainly over the last 20 years, when priorities and departments of government, like here in the UK, health and safety, has been assuming more and more power into private organizations and private spheres and telling them how to apply different safety measures. Now, for many of these, they haven't been intrusive, and sometimes they've been very helpful. But they've certainly been growing in scope. And now, if you want to have a gathering, very often at your church or your private organization, you kind of have a checklist you have to go through. Many of those things on that checklist may not have existed 20 years ago. Sometimes there's some good in that. Other times it can be a bit burdensome. And all that was the case before 2020. All of a sudden, when safetyism got taken to the next level. Now, what do I mean by safetyism? By safetyism, I mean we take a good virtue like safety, and we take that good thing and we lift it up to be an ultimate thing, an all-defining thing, a priority that becomes so high that no countervailing considerations are allowed into the discussion, where you must do everything you can to minimize risk at all cost to keep everyone safe. Stay safe is the great prayer, the great mantra of this religion. And you say this to yourself over and over again. And pretty soon you, because you've elevated safety to the position of deity, of God, all of a sudden humans, its worshipers, become less and less human. And we're no longer living. We are surviving. It is a cult. Safetyism is a cult in which people are not free to assess for themselves, among themselves, what sort of risks they want. And its worshipers make all sorts of sacrifices of the intellect, social sacrifices, spiritual sacrifices, emotional, psychological sacrifices. Also, a tiny, minuscule amount of risk can be reduced. And we're seeing that now, where 0.01% of safety. You can be 0.01% safer if you just stay at home and never hug your friends or loved ones again. Wow. And that's not even something those aren't even risks. Now, if someone wants to do that, great. But now we're being told we all have to do that. It's a very scary religion. It's taken on the form of a cult, and some of its worshipers and adherents are hysterical. That they proselytize, they want you to be part of this cult of safetyism. Now, first of all, let's say from a materialist worldview, this makes sense. I mean, the materialist worldview believes that the things that you can see, touch, weigh in a test tube, all of this, that they're the only things that exist. So if you die, that's it. You become plant food. You die, they put you in a box, paint you up like a clown, and then bury you in the ground, you become plant food. And that's it. And if that's all you believe, well, then you fight to get every single year you can. Man, if you can do anything just to ensure that you avoid that accident or just live slightly longer or whatever, who wants to die when they're 80 when they can live to be 85 or 85 when they can live to be 90? So we need to do everything we can to be as safe as possible. Stretch out this life because, death is our enemy and it's coming for us. Well, if you believe in eternal life, if you believe, you don't even have to be a Christian to believe this, but for Christianity, it's very central. But if you believe that there are two worlds, this world in which it's kind of broken and has its problems, but then there's a world to come that's full of bliss and beauty, and there's no sickness there, and people live forever. If you believe that, all of a sudden, the way you assess risk in this life, it's very different. Of course, you try to avoid risk. You go out of your way to die. You want to take reasonable precautions when necessary. But you don't sacrifice everything that's important to you for 0.1% of a reduction in risk. Churches should not be swept away in the same anxious fear that the world is. That's something just might, possibly, could be out there to kill people. We put our congregation at risk today by meeting. Oh, no, not from the coronavirus. Goodness, no. We met outside. And did you know in the UK, every year, 2 people are killed by bolts of lightning? Yes, there's a 1 in 33 million chance that you will get struck by lightning and die. And here we were as a church putting our people at risk from bolts of lightning. Yeah, who knows if a bolt of lightning had hit someone, what could have happened to them? But you know, and everyone knew that. Everyone knew you could get struck by lightning. Everyone knows you can get in a car accident and die on the road to church. Everyone knows you might pick up a flu or a coronavirus or any sorts of things. And you know what? We're grown-ups. We decide to take those sorts of risks for ourselves. We don't want to live in a society where a good thing like safety becomes the ultimate, all-defining factor of society. We want it to take its reasonable place, not too low, but not too high either. Safetyism has taken on all the forms of a fanatical cult. It is one of the most proselytizing, influential cults on the religious scene today. And it is calling you to worship and to make big sacrifices. And if you do not, you are a morally bad person, and there is no forgiveness in the religion of safetyism.